The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Good evening. Welcome to BronxTalk. Several years ago when we had the BronxTalk Daily Morning Show, remember that? It was great. We'd get frequent phone calls from a man in the Central West Bronx who would tell us about what was going on in his neighborhood of Mount Eden and the Grand Concourse. He was so involved and worked so hard to better his community that it was as if he was an elected official or even part of a city agency. Turns out he was neither, just a real good Bronx guy fighting to better his neighbor. Well, he's still at it, and so we thought we'd bring him on the show tonight to do what he does best, talk about his Bronx community. And so we welcome Sidney Flores. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Gary.
Oh yeah, and tagging along is the chairman of the Community Board 4, Pastor Wenzel Jackson. Pastor Jackson, good evening.
Good evening, Gary.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Bronx Talk. Folks, please, you can join in our conversation at 718-960-7241. You can also email comments to us at bronxtalk@hotmail.com, and we'll read those on the air during a future edition of our program. Sidney, so nice to have you live on the air, back with us on the TV show.
Nice to be here.
Tell me a little bit about why you've done all this community work, and really this is over a period of years and years, because we started talking on the air years ago. Well, why do you do it?
Well, I do it because, like I told you last time, I saw a lot of deterioration of that area of the Bronx. And something was telling me, and deep inside of me, that something's not right. The crime, the garbage dumping, the rat problems we had, and just the garbage just sitting there for too long.
It seemed like simple problems to fix, if only anybody would care, right?
Exactly. And the Morris massive problem we had with Morris Park, which is now a beautiful park for the kids, and the Selwyn Avenue Tunnel, which this past summer was addressed to Community Board 4 by the community with 1,500 signatures I gathered for the committee to finally tell the DOT and MTA that the community is asking for results under that tunnel.
Many people, and one of the reasons I brought you here was, frankly, to use you as an example that it actually can be done. Many people who are watching our show and many people who live in the Bronx say, you know what, I agree with him. It's not nice in my neighborhood. We have garbage, we have crime, we have drugs, we have all these things. And they want to do it. Why have you been able to actually get some results? You said the Morris Mesa Park was cleaned up. You talk about this tunnel that is now on the way to being cleaned up. Why have you been able to be successful?
I believe the good Lord appointed me finally to visualize these problems and to do something about it, and He gave me the strength to start attacking these issues. Like I told you the last time, my father was a former politician in the South Bronx. He was very well connected, and it started inside of me at a late age. But nevertheless, I accomplished a lot, and I'm just a regular civilian. And people got to get together and care about their community and do something about something that's not right.
Do you ever get discouraged? Do you ever say, you know what, I have been talking to an elected official or to a city agency for so long, and you know what, it's not going to happen. I'm not, I don't want to say I quit, but I've never heard you have that attitude. Many in the Bronx have said, you know what, I can't get this done.
I've worried a lot in the beginning what the people would think about me sweeping the overpasses along in the beginning.
Is that what you did?
Oh yes, I did for quite a while. And
before you move on, describe what did you do?
I swept the overpasses
constantly. You would go out in the morning with your own broom and your own stuff, and you just said, I'm just going to take care of this spot.
I would grab the equipment from my building, the residential building I live in for the hospital, and grab their garbage bags, and I would go out there and sweep. the lower landings, the back landings. And I would just do it all. It was just a strength and energy that the good Lord gave me, and I continued it until they took me serious. And the day came that they started taking me serious.
Who's the they you're talking about?
Well, the they would be the some of the agencies. Like I started reaching out to community boards slowly but surely. Margarita Hunt was a former district manager at 4. She was very nice and polite, and she helped me get traffic lights up where we needed them, stop signs where we needed them, next to the Selwyn Avenue tunnel. 4 and 5 actually helped me with spotlights on the overpass.
So 4 and 5, that's Community Board 4 and Community Board 5.
Community Board, yeah, because I helped both sides out. And the doctors were getting mugged, and the nurses on the overpass upstairs over the Cross Bronx.
And that's from Bronx Lebanon Hospital, just to be clear for our viewers.
Correct. And I managed to get the attention to the DOT with the help of the community boards, and we finally got those spotlights approved and some additional street lamps at the lower level. It has been beneficial for me and the community. And it's just been great all around with the attention that I'm getting. With the New York Times last year, they did a write-up on me, and that triggered other stations wanting to talk to me and know what I'm doing and why I do it.
But there's no question, and again, I've known you for many years, you don't do this because you want to get your name in the paper or you'd be on TV. You do it because you just believe it's right. Pastor Jackson, I don't even want you to comment on this because this is the kind of a citizen that really makes your work and the community board's work a lot easier, doesn't it?
It really does. If more people would have the same spirit that Sydney has for its community, it would make our community district a much better place to live.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, in talking about the former district manager over there and even people currently in place, when you have somebody who just keeps going, you can't help but be inspired to say, you know what, he's right, maybe we ought to jump on board.
Exactly.
And even working outside of it wasn't a matter of politics, it wasn't a matter of elected officials, it was just a matter of street needs cleaning, I'll take care of it. Talk to me, give me your vision, if you would, Pastor Jackson, about how Community Board 4 is doing. Let's start with the things that are going well, and then, of course, we'll address some of the issues.
Some of the things that are going well in Community Board 4, one is that we're excited about the new parks opening up. There's been a lot of investment.
Heritage Field,
Mill Pond Park, those parks around the Yankee Stadium area that have been completed and are opened up. New Yorkers, the Bronxites, love their parks, and were very disappointed when their parks were taken from them a few years ago. But now they're back, they're operating, and they can enjoy a place of recreation for them and their children.
Now, one of the things, we did a rather exhaustive study about some of those parks. Has access improved because there had been a problem where, the community of Highbridge is here. In order to get to Mill Pond, you got to go up and around the highway and all that? Or is that really the way it is and there's not much to be done about it?
I don't think there's much that can be done about it because of the way it's situated, right behind Gateway Center Mall, where Highbridge is located. Obviously, Highbridge is an isolated community up on the hill. So the access to that particular park is quite difficult at times. However, Heritage Field is right there on 161st Street. It is a beautiful place to go.
Now, there was some concern, it was written up in one of the papers, that they were going to charge and people had to pay for Heritage Field. Do you feel like there's going to be enough access for community groups, Little Leagues, and whoever needs it to be able to get to use it and have the pleasure of playing at, really the same home plate where Babe Ruth stood?
I think it has to be open for the community use. That's why the park is there. To charge to use the facility would be a travesty to the community. They went months without having this recreation space that is really their community recreation space. So it needs to be free for the community.
I want to talk about one positive thing, and that's what frankly rekindled this dialogue between us. I attended, as you well know, this 4 plus 44 right?
Yes.
Event, which is a community police a collaborative where the community board celebrates the work of the NYPD. What is the relationship right now between the community board, the community, and the local precinct? Judging from what I saw, it seemed reasonably healthy.
There is a healthy relationship between Community Board 4 and the 44th Precinct. They're always at our meetings. They're always keeping us informed of what's going on in terms of policing the 44th Precinct as well as Community Board 4, of course, because they're coterminous. But our relationship with them is very healthy.
Mm-hmm. Talk to me about shootings, things that happen in the Bronx. Now we're going to the negative side and say, well, you know what, crime may be down in some places, but you know what, we still have got problems. Talk to me about problems.
One shooting is too many. And in our community, over the recent weeks, we've just had a tremendous increase in shootings within our district. Some just as recent. One of the most noted ones is the one that was at Bronx Lebanon Hospital,
That's right.
which was really unfortunate. We have to do better as a community with getting guns off our streets. We have to do better with getting our young people to stop solving their problems with violence.
I'll give you a couple of things on that. Number one, why do you think it's happening now? Is it related to a sense of joblessness or the economy, or do you not really have a sense of this particular time versus another?
I think it's definitely related to the economy. Whenever the economy is in turmoil, people's tensions are higher.
Do you sense that?
Yes, definitely. And I think I sense it on every level. Not only do I chair Community Board 4, but I also pastor a church. And so I feel it from the faith-based community as well as the social community where it's just, it affects all of us everywhere.
And so then it explodes in these just horrific, unspeakable tragedies and events. Sidney, you work real hard not only in cleaning the streets but in helping to protect the streets. Talk to me about security. And again, this is not a hired gun, bad term, not a hired hand, maybe a better term, but somebody who just is a civilian who wants to do the right thing. Tell me what you've put into place.
Well, I got a vehicle, and the vehicle helps patrol the from Yankee Stadium to Fordham Row, east to west. My vehicle is tagged Bronx Community Board 4 and 5, Quality of Life, Safety Patrol. And not only do I look for quality of life issues in our sidewalks and streets, I also am the eyes and ears of sanitation, parks, and police department.
So you personally drive around in this vehicle?
Yes, I do.
And what do you? And when do you do it? And what do you do? I don't want to tell the bad guys when you do it.
I do it after work. I do it on the weekends.
Just whenever you get a moment.
Whenever I get a moment, I give the Bronx an hour, 2, 3. If it's busy, I could be out there 3 hours responding to a fire, responding to certain things, because we do it with a radio. We have scanners. The reason I say we is a gentleman called Lefty. He's from the Parks Department, District 5, and he's joined me. So we have 2 vehicles now, tagged the same way. We carry safety equipment. We have fire extinguishers. We have flares.
Give me an example of something that you've done or seen that has been useful to the community through this process.
Wow, I could tell you a few things. On the way here, District Manager Jose Rodriguez and I saw a missing hydrant. I gave it to 311 and the location. Also saw a grating on the Grand Concourse collapsing. That's the MTA. I roped it off with caution tape, and I'll get back to that maybe after the show or tomorrow and give it to the proper authorities.
And then you will follow, this is an educated guess, then you will follow through, not call somebody else. You'll make sure, hey, what happened to this thing?
Yeah, exactly. And I have a good relationship with Channel 12. And when things don't get done at a timely fashion, 12 gets involved with me, and then it gets done quicker. And that's something that I'm proud of, because they're my to-go persons. They're very good with me.
Give me one more example, and then we're going to move to something else. Go ahead.
Oh, we had a fire scene one particular time in District 5, and I showed up, and people were running out the building practically with no clothes on. And I have sheets already for those situations like that, from the hospital sheets, and I give it to the patient. Well, not to the patients, to the fire victims.
Right.
I also carry hot cocoa for the officers or the fire victims. And in the summer months when it's hot, I carry a cold bottled water for the impact unit. This past week, I was called to speak to the new impact officers in the 4-4 and the 4-6 to address them and what I do so they could get familiarized with me.
You know, if we were in a crowd, I'd ask the people to stand and applaud. I mean, certainly Pastor Jackson, what this man is doing is just incredible. I mean, he does it, and he never hesitates, and does the right thing.
Never hesitates, does the right thing, and he makes our life at Community Board 4 a lot easier. Mm-hmm. We welcome that kind of support to the community.
Who paid for the car?
Out of my own pocket. That was lottery money that I won, and
lottery money.
Is the story behind that, Gary? I made another segment.
All right, maybe a different show. And so you basically donated it to the community.
I donated that to the community, and I also donated to BronxTalk and the hospital ATV vehicle to plow the snow in the area. I also do that when we have snowstorms.
Sidney, since you have been a Bronxite for a very long time, I don't want to reveal his age. Tell me a little bit about the difference between the way the Bronx was and the way the Bronx is, and maybe even 3 stages: when you were growing up, when you started working, and where you're at now. Give us some perspective on what that part of the Bronx has changed. Well,
that part of the Bronx where I live right now, I see a difference in the litter. The litter is less litter, less dumping due to signs I put up that I paid for out of my own pocket. These signs help out a lot, plus the relationship along the way with sanitation, parks, Community Board 4, Jose Rodriguez, and Xavier from Community Board 5. I have a good relationship with them, so if I run into any problems, they'll step in and help me.
So this is the result of your work to some degree, that you really feel like, wow, you know what? We looked at a problem, and over the period of years, we've
the garbage has stopped tremendously. The illegal dumping, the cars that were being abandoned behind the Board of Election building. We had a prostitution problem back there under that tunnel on 175th Street. And Lieutenant Egan from the 4-6 helped me a lot. And they still today keep doing spot checks under that tunnel. That tunnel is very clean now. We got new lighting under there. And now I'm trying to see if I could do something with the other tunnel around the other side so we could have it all uniform. It makes no sense having doctors and nurses coming from other countries to service this community, and they got to live in bad conditions.
Not only live in bad conditions, it would discourage them or other experts who we desperately need from walking into the Bronx.
Exactly.
Let's go a different direction. Jobs, we talked about earlier, joblessness. There is some hopelessness, unfortunately, in some ways. Where are we at as far as development, as far as our business districts, and as far as jobs or job creation?
We're doing very well. We've got very well in one district.
Okay.
We have the 161st Street bid is doing a great job in promoting the 161st Street corridor, Yankee Stadium up to the courthouses. Right. So they're doing a tremendous job.
Mm-hmm. They've also had the advantage, of course, of having the spurred-on development brought on by the stadium and the steady stream of people who work at the courthouse, of course, every day, provide them with ready clientele.
You're exactly right. There are the other commercial districts that are in desperate need of support and consideration for some type of economic development. Just recently, as a couple of weeks ago, our district manager, Jose Rodriguez, and myself, along with EDC, did a walking tour of Ogden Avenue, which is a commercial district up in the Highbridge community, just to see what we could do or what can happen in that area to spawn growth economically for that community and for that business district.
Well, what does it need? Well, I realize if you had a checkbook, that's one thing, but from a realistic perspective, what would you think, and what would you like to see happen that could really empower a community that is in need?
I'd like to see a bank. There's no bank on that hill. Mm-hmm. There's mostly check cashing places. But there's no full service.
This is a long-running discussion, and we had it on that morning show that I talked to you about just a little while ago. Why isn't there a bank there? There are people there, and I realize it may not be the wealthiest community. One would think the first bank that goes in there is going to get all that business.
That's the way I think, but perhaps the banks
They didn't ask us.
They didn't ask us. But if there's a bank up on that community, imagine what it could do for our young people in terms of teaching them about financial literacy and allowing them to be able to walk into a financial institution, deposit their funds, and invest in their community. I'd like to see a quality food service organization in that area. A great grocery store with quality products so that there can be healthy eating.
Right, and we know that many of the small bodegas are providing a service. They are providing some jobs for their families, but we know that, and Sydney, who works at Bronx Lebanon, knows that the nutrition is not happening, and the only way to do it is to have a grocery.
Exactly.
Is there anybody out there who's fighting for these things, whether it be in the elected official side or community side, or are these things that you're just starting the process with?
I think we're all fighting for it. Community Board 4 is fighting for it. Vanessa Gibson, Assemblywoman Vanessa Gibson and I have had many conversations about it. Councilwoman Diane Foster and I have had many conversations about it. These people represent those areas, so there are many of us that are fighting for it.
Do you have a sense now what the stumbling blocks are?
Stumbling blocks, I think one would probably be space.
There's got to be space. I'll take a walk with you and find some space.
You'll find some space, and people willing to invest in such a community.
That's what I was suggesting.
Highbridge is not a wealthy community. And so oftentimes people don't want to invest in communities where they don't see an immediate return.
Got it. I mean, I knew that was the answer. Give me the sale. What would you, if I was a prospective bank owner or developer, what would you tell me about your community to convince me that you ought to bring a bank here?
I'm about to say Mount Herman because that's where I pastor, and that's where Highbridge is.
Go right ahead.
But Highbridge is a committed community. They make sure that what comes up there works. If a bank comes up there, they'll make sure that a bank stays. Just like we fought for the school to be built on 167th Street, they're following that through. They're making sure it's a green school.
So even though you can measure the dollar amounts, the index of income is plainly evident for anybody to see. The community will band together, and as a community, we will work with you to make sure this succeeds in every way, whether it be with, investments or opening accounts, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
You'd all get behind it.
Exactly.
That's the community spirit, of course, that Sydney embodies. Sydney, another area that I want to talk about, and it gets into the youth that Pastor Jackson was talking about as far as turning to guns and turning to violence instead of doing the right thing. When I was growing up, and I'm guessing when you were growing up in the Bronx, activities for kids were more prevalent. Do you see now more kids hanging out, and is this another issue that you'd like to see addressed?
Yeah, I like to address you too much hanging out on street corners. I totally don't like the pants that are hanging on some of these guys, all of these guys. I wish they would pass a law that would require these guys to pick their pants up or give them a $25 or $50
I can only
summons.
tell you from a constitutional perspective, you'd have a pretty big battle. I don't know if that'd be worth it, but anyway.
Yeah, and the gun violence is out of control. By the way, also respond to gun violence after the fact with my vehicle and my partner, and we also distribute Crime Stopper information, and we post them up all over the area, and buy back gun programs, which the pastor and I...
You encourage that, yes?
Yeah, I encourage that. The pastor and I were involved with the borough president with that, right, last year, and I continue. They can't stop me from doing what I'm doing. It's when it's in you, by the force of the Lord, is nothing nobody can do.
Let's talk about, I'd ask you the same question about youth services. Do you feel like there's enough after-school programs and things, or is this an area that you'd like to see addressed directly?
This is an area I'd like to see addressed directly. There are clearly not enough youth services, and I think from a community standpoint, from an educational standpoint, I believe that we'll be able to get a lot of our young people off the street corners if we provide opportunities for them and places for them to go.
Do you have in your mind a place or an area or an organization that is basically ready to do it or has done it but is being cut back? In other words, do you have Do you have a vision on where this could take place? Let's put it out there.
I think it could happen at the Highbridge Community Center. That is severely went through some cutbacks and not open as much as they would like to be.
So this is literally a matter of funding.
It's a matter of funding. There are areas of investment that we can make in our educational systems to bring back athletic programs that have been severely cut, music programs that have been severely cut, to get the children, get our kids off the street into some productive programming. That back when I was a kid growing up, every school had a football team, every school had a baseball team, every school had a basketball team, and that's where we spent our afternoon hours.
I'm going to just poke my friend Sidney and say I'm sure he played a lot of schoolyard basketball and all those kinds of things, and now a lot of the schoolyards are used up for buildings and other facilities. These are, in my mind, one of the things that we really need to emphasize. Sidney, a final word from you about what's next. What would you like to see next? What like would be the next project, or is it really just a matter of, you know, keeping on doing what you're doing?
Well, keep on. I'm continuing doing what I'm doing, but I would like to see the structure of the Southern Avenue Tunnel once and for all fixed and decent looking.
The actual infrastructure of the tunnel.
Yeah, that tunnel is leaking and it has holes on the walls and have a stench problem when the summer comes, the pigeons.
Why is that spot so important to you?
Well, because I accomplished the Morris Messer issue. I accomplished getting attention to the tunnel opposite from the other tunnel, which is 5 side. So I'm asking now the other side to please, you know.
This is just another area that people could.
I want everything to be uniform. I want the circle around me to be uniform.
Sidney, thank you so much for just being a great Bronxite and
Thank
for
you.
really caring about your community and really our community. We
And
appreciate it.
Gary, I also like to see the Grand Concourse completed.
There's been a lot of talk about it, and it starts and stops, and a nice tree basket here or something else. But you want to see a vision for that.
Yes, I do.
Pastor Jackson will give you a final word. Any thoughts on what you'd like to see right now, and what your next project would be with the community board?
I think our next project is to make sure that hotel comes to the Bronx.
The one that the borough president's been talking about,
Exactly.
Just south of Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
All right. Wenzel Jackson, thank you so much.
You're very
Sidney
welcome.
Flores, thank you so much. I hope what you find is infectious with what they say and really makes you feel like, gee whiz, we can fight for our communities and get something done. If you do have further comments or questions on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then email them to us at bronxtalk@hotmail.com, and we'll read those on the air during a future edition of our program. Archives of the show are available at bronxnet.org. You click Bronx Talk on the right-hand navigation bar. You can watch any of our old shows. Next week, check this out. We take a look at Bronx waterfronts through a new city plan to improve our riversides, harbors, and seafronts. And then the week after, we will have Fernando Cabrera. Councilman Cabrera will be with us. Bronx Talk, Monday nights at 9 here on BronxNet, Cablevision 67, Verizon Fios 33. Thanks to producer Jane Folloro. Our director is Michael Arias, and our cast of thousands who are all around us and up in the booth. And to you, good night.
Megan, you're a tramp. Ryan Fitch told me you guys made out. Everybody knows. He says you're the most desperate girl he knows, besides your mom. How many boyfriends does she have anyway? Lots? That zit is huge. Zit face.